And so you see this kind of process going on in this family. And there's a period where Jesus says, right, it's time to go. Let's go off. And he breaks the news to his disciples that he knows he's already dead. He knows Lazarus is already dead. And in verse 17, it picks it up. So when Jesus came, he found that he'd already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So the funeral preparations have kind of well and truly taken place. That this is a time of mourning now. The grieving has started. You know, there's a time period sometimes before the loss and when you actually start to grieve. Sometimes it's before they go. That you begin to resign yourself to the fact that you're going to lose them, and then the grief process has occurred before they've actually died, and there's this disconnection that goes on when the death actually occurs, where half the grief connection's already been made, and so then when the death actually occurs, part of you is doubting yourself, should I be grieving more? Should I feel more terrible? And all of these processes go on in our hearts and our lives as we watch this go on. And it's sometimes not going to be okay. And you see in verse 21, when it goes down to verse 21, Martha says to Jesus, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And there's this moment in our prayer lives, moment in our Christian lives, and this is normal for Christians. This isn't abnormal, this is normal. To go through this time where we watch something disastrous that goes on, it might be in our families, in our relationships, it could be a person, it could be a son or a daughter, it could be a mother or a father. And we watch the disaster go on, and we get mad at him. If you had been here, none of this would have happened. And it's almost like, how dare you be off somewhere else doing something else when you can see what's going on? Do you even care? Do you even love me? You say you do, but look at the disaster. Look at the train wreck around me. Look at this. And there's this bitterness that rises up within us because we're no longer optimistic about what God can do. We're busy focusing on what God hasn't done. Yeah? And this process of blame, yeah, maybe I was partly responsible, but you're still God. And surely you can do something about this, and you should have been here. And so you can see that she's just furious with him. Lord, if you'd have been here, my brother would not have died. And she says this afterwards. She said, even now I know, whatever you ask of God, God will give you. But it's interesting to see what the reply is. See, Jesus says to her, he says, your brother will rise again. But Martha said to him, I know they'll rise again on resurrection day. And it's hard as a pastor because you look to the minister for some sort of spiritual guidance, and very often you're looking to the minister for it's going to be okay, isn't it? You know, isn't that right? You know, it's the prayer requests come to the front. Please pray for this. Please pray for this. Please pray for this. And it's like, please, Pastor, tell me it's going to be okay. Tell me God is still on my side. Tell me God is still with me. Tell me it's going to be all right. And you're looking for that. But when it's dead, when it's gone, when the situation is a train wreck, it's now turned to, you said God was with me. You said that God could heal. You said that God would forgive. You said that if I look to him, he can make it better. You said that all things work together for good for those that love the Lord, and I love him, so why isn't it working together for good? You said this, you said this. Surely you are the God who can. Surely you are the God who can. So why haven't you? And the anger and the bitterness and the unfair and you don't care and why me all comes out on the care provider. It happens in churches. It happens in hospitals. I remember a 75-year-old man who I was looking after his son, 44-year-old guy, and he had a leukemia, which was a very regressive leukemia, and we tried different various treatments and everything else, and we lost him. There's only so much we could do. We couldn't separate the sickness from the person, and we lost the person. And I remember breaking the bad news to the family. We were in the intensive care unit at that stage. We pulled out all the stops. And we were in an intensive care unit at that stage, and we just lost him. And I remember going in to speak to the family and looking into the eyes of the father while I'm talking, because he just happened to sit opposite me. And he was furious, so furious. You see this stuff sometimes. And he was so angry. And he was angry at me because he put his hope in me to save his son. He put his trust in me to save his son. He had given me everything he could in what he knew. He had done all he could in being there. He had done everything, and aren't you supposed to be able to do something about this, Gareth? Dr. Sherwood. Yeah? And he was angry. He was so angry at me. And you have to just sit there as a doctor. And you literally say, we did all we could. I'm sorry. We did all we could. Tried everything. And you cry. This man, I'd known this guy for 3 months, so they talk about doctor-patient distancing. It doesn't happen when you know them in hospitals for 3 months. You sit with them, you laugh with them, you cry with them, you hold their hand, you do all of this stuff, and you are angry inside. But I'm angry because I've got a faith, and it's like, where are you, God? And so, even as a pastor, you go through these times where you watch something goes on in somebody's life and the train wreck that occurs, and you get furious too. Yeah? It's funny, it gets reflected straight up. Yeah? The number of times I've cried over some of the young people, the number of times I've prayed and gotten so angry at God over situations that have gone on in your lives. And like, where the heck are you, Lord? And this is where we find ourselves. We find ourselves in this moment where everything depends on Jesus. And Jesus turns around to her and says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? And she said to him, yes, Lord, I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. And when she had said this, she went away and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, the teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she got up quickly and was coming to him.